In this video, I'm going to be giving you guys 7 tips for keeping guppies in an aquarium, and these tips are going to be some for you beginners and some for you experienced aquarists. So make sure you stay around to the end of the video to listen to all the tips. Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome back to Keeping Fish Simple. So in this video, we're going to be talking about 7 tips for keeping guppies in your aquariums. Now, some of these pieces of advice are going to be for beginners, and it's also going to be a few things that I've learned over the past 6 years of keeping fish that you guys might not know, and this is going to also help some of you experienced guppy keepers out there. If you guys are new to the channel and you haven't seen some of my content, I make lots of aquarium related information videos as well as some little entertaining ones, so please consider subscribing. Alright, without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so the first tip for keeping guppies in an aquarium is to keep more males than females. Okay, so the reason I say this is for a few reasons. Now, guppies tend to breed all the time, so guppies are always breeding in your aquarium, and if you keep a ratio of 1:1 females to males, what's going to happen is the males will get a little bit more territorial than the females and tend to pursue a female all the time. So if you have 1:1 ratio, the females are always going to be getting chased after and hunted down to be bred with, and what's going to happen is it's going to stress the females out. So if you keep a group of 3 females to 1 male, what's going to happen is that male is going to pursue a female in rotation. So they'll give the females that aren't being pursued some downtime to make sure they're not going to get stressed and get sick, because if we get stressed fish, we're more likely to get sick fish, and we're also more likely to get nipped fins and all kinds of other problems. So it's really important that you keep more males than females in your aquarium. So my second piece of advice is to keep really cool hiding spots in your aquarium. So there's a bunch of different live plants you can use, and there's a bunch of different decorations you can use. And the reason for this is when the guppies are breeding, a lot of people want to keep the babies, and females and males guppies will always attack and try and eat their fry, and this is just because they're not very bright, they're little fish, and they think that they're a nice little snack. So it's important that the guppies, babies, have heaps of places for them to hide in the aquarium after they're born. So the best way we can do this is adding stuff like Java moss or water sprite or water wisteria or a bunch of other little floating plants or clumping plants down the bottom for the aquarium, because this will allow the fry to go in there and hide and not be consumed by the adults in the aquarium. Now, my third piece of advice is something you probably don't hear much when you're keeping guppies, and this is because guppies are so cheap and hardy, but it's to feed a variety of different foods. Now, I like to feed my guppies about 30% live foods or frozen foods, and then the rest can be commercial flakes and stuff like that. Now, the reason I do this is because all fish really need some variety in their diet to prevent them from getting diseases, or to prevent them from getting sick, and it also promotes really good color and really prolific breeding. So I like to feed 30% bloodworms and then the rest of the commercial food, and I do this just to supplement, to make sure that all those fish are getting their minerals, to make sure that they stay healthy and that they don't get sick or anything like that. So my fourth piece of advice might be one of the most important on the list, and this is to add a new guppy or add a few new guppies every 6 months to your aquarium. So if you think about it, when guppies are kept in an aquarium and they keep breeding and breeding and breeding, obviously that gene line is going to get a little bit contaminated because there's so much action happening in that aquarium. So to make that gene stronger in the aquarium and to make them last a bit longer, it's always a good idea to go to another pet store or another local breeder and pick up a few extra guppies, and this can be just 3 or 4 extra guppies, and add them to the aquarium to mix up the gene pool and make sure that there's not any incest behavior going on with the guppies. So it's really important to do that, because I know that nowadays there are so many different guppies and they've all been bred and inbred so much that they actually really get sick. So the way you can combat this is to constantly be mixing with different styles and different types of guppies. Now, even if you're trying to get a specific strain of guppy, it's important to try and find different variations of that strain to keep mixing and making that gene stronger. So my number 5 tip is to keep your guppies in warmer water. Guppies are generally very, very hardy fish, and they're super hard to kill, and a lot of people will not keep them with a heater or stuff like that. And even if you have a heater, it's always good to keep your guppies at a warmer temperature. So I keep mine at about 24 to 26 degrees, and that's super warm. And the reason I do this is because I like to have my guppies' immune system's always been running really, really strong, and make sure that they don't get sick. And I also think that when you do this, they grow quicker, obviously, and by doing this, they're going to be healthier fish because their immune systems are able to kick in much easier, and you're going to get less sick fish. I think one of the worst things about keeping guppies in the aquarium hobby, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really good positive things because they're such good beginner fish. The most common problem with guppies is disease in the aquarium. So anything we can do to combat this is super important, because if we get those fish sick, obviously it's not good and it will contaminate the aquarium and it'll really unmotivate you to continue to keep fish. So number 6 on the list is to use sponge filters, or if you've got a canister filter or a hang-on filter or whatever, to use covers. A lot of people forget about this, and what happens is the guppies will actually be sucked up into the filters or sucked to it, and the best way to do this is obviously use sponge filters. Sponge filters are cheap, they're easy to use, and they're easy to find everywhere, and they only require one outlet from a wall. But if you have a mechanical filter, that's okay. Just make sure you keep some sort of stocking or a sponge actual cover over that intake, because otherwise what's going to happen is when your guppies have babies, they're going to get sucked up and you will not have any baby. So my 7th piece of advice is something else that's really, really important, and it's when you initially buy your guppies, to make sure that all the guppies in that aquarium are healthy. Okay, so when you go to your local fish store or your local breeder, you want to examine that aquarium so hard to just see if there's anything wrong with any of the guppies and make sure that all those guppies in that aquarium are healthy. The worst thing you can do is to buy a guppy just as it's getting sick and then take it home and have it die. So it's really important that you thoroughly check everything in the aquarium store to make sure that that tank is safe and that those guppies are healthy. So the things you want to look for in a healthy guppy are really good colors. Their fins should be spread out. You don't want any nip fins, and you also don't want any skinny guppies. Skinny guppies are the most common things I see in local fish stores, and when you see a skinny guppy, that guppy probably has some sort of internal parasite, and if you take that guppy home and you mix it with your other fish, it's probably going to contaminate them, because what's going to happen is that disease is going to spread through the whole entire aquarium. So it's really important that you check your fish before you buy them. On another note, that sums up the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.